Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, one last entry here for this series. I said my other one was going to be the last one, but then I realized that this story, which I was originally going to place in the Aliens and UFO series, I thought to myself, why not? Why not post it on the Cryptids and Monsters side? Because it definitely seems to fall more into that one. This has to do more with a location and also a strange entity that seems to roam there at a very notorious spot here in Central Texas. This is a place that I visited at least once in the past. I look forward to visiting it soon in the future, mainly because it has a whole gamut of interesting stuff. In fact, a whole lot of series here that I talk about in my videos seem to be at this one location. But in this case, again, we're going to talk about something that may be a cryptid that happens to roam that place, but you're looking at least at the place, a location itself. There's not really a picture of the entity because you'll know why here in just 1 second. This entity is known as essentially the Invisible Man of Palmetto State Park. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with this very, very unique entry, and also, of course, the location in of itself, which is a whole different sort of category when it comes to a mishmash of fascinating things. So what is this Invisible Man of Palmetto State Park? Well, it's pretty self-descriptory, right? Like, it's basically an invisible thing, entity, could be a being of some sort, that is located there in Palmetto State Park, nearby Austin, Texas, but going closer to the Gonzales, Texas area. In fact, this is the one picture that I took there while I was visiting that location on the way over to Gonzales, Texas to do a little ghost hunt there. Palmetto State Park is a very, very big park. This is a park that is over 270 acres. It gives you an idea essentially of just how huge this thing is. There are several locations there, if you call it like a headquarters, that houses its main office, and then also locations surrounding it that you could park and stay. There's also cabins that are located there as well. I think you can even bring like your own RV or other type of recreational vehicle to just basically stay there and stay overnight. I've looked into it in the past. In fact, the group I'm in have been looked into it as well. The problem is you have to plan it out so far ahead of time. That was even before the pandemic. That's how popular this place is now afterward of things being limited. I imagine it's even planned out even more so. So it hasn't gone into effect yet in terms of me being able to stay here overnight, but it should be something soon. The reason why I'm so interested in this place, this Palmetto State Park, is because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a mishmash of various things that I talk about on my channels. Number one, there's various alien and UFO reports that people state happen there. In fact, in the night skies, people see that there's some kind of lights that seem to roam about in the skies there in Palmetto State Park. It's become not necessarily a hot spot of UFO sightings, but it's definitely had its own little ticks here and there. On top of that, there's also ghosts and spirits that roam that location. People that stay there overnight or people that just happen to come by, they always state that they have this weird sensation as if they're being watched. And then they also have the telltale signs of shadow people that are seen there, along with strange lights that roam the entire, like not the entire area, but throughout the area itself, ghost lights, if you will, that people see within the park itself, of course, happening at nighttime, and then usual stuff like noises that shouldn't be there, and then maybe just wisps of let's say, sensations here and there, like people see something, sense something, maybe even feel like a ghost passing by, that kind of stuff. And then finally, there's the Cryptids and Monsters side, which I'll talk about here. Something seems to roam at that location. It might be even described close to a Sasquatch type creature that goes in and about that particular park. Because it's so big, it would make sense that this is something that is free to roam various spots here to there. In fact, there's marshes that are located there. There's bogs. There's parts of the San Marcos River that come about there. There's also floodwater areas. There is also very, very dense vegetation. There's jungle-like atmosphere as well. Not to mention, I think I recall seeing there were areas like little, not caves, but places that people or things could essentially go into and then basically stay there and not have anything bother them. So all this stuff would absolutely make sense for having bizarre creatures, Sasquatch-like creatures, in other words, that roam about that location. Here, though, what I'm going to talk about is the invisible man that's purported to roam that location. It's a colloquial term, invisible man, but it seems to be more along the lines of an invisible entity. Could it be a ghost? Who knows? Could it be an invisible alien? Something that's cloaked, in other words, that just happens to be rolling about from that location, from its park to UFO somewhere. Who knows as well? Or it could just be an outright cryptid. But people state that if you go there to Palmetto State Park, you'll come across something as if, again, you're being seen, but you can't see what this creature is. Whoever is giving you that sensation, in other words, you in turn cannot find it, but it definitely is watching you. And the way it's described is it's large and heavy. How this is done is the fact that apparently it leaves very tall grass bent behind it. In other words, a large animal, if it was roaming through large patches of grass, obviously it would bend the grass here and there wherever it roams. That's what this invisible man does. But because of it being so invisible, you don't see it as it does it, but you see the surroundings, including the tall grass, being impacted by it. So that would actually be a little bit freaky. Imagine seeing something along those lines, even more invisible, in other words, than the predator, the way it was moving about through the jungle, but in this case, just outright invisible. You would not see it, only the telltale signs of the grass as it was moving about from point A to point B. In fact, there was this encounter that I was reading on the website obscurbandlegend.fandom.com, and in it, an anonymous man on a date that remains unknown stated that he was there in Palmetto State Park taking pictures because his wife had given him a brand new camera for Christmas. It would be a good area there in Palmetto State Park to take a lot of pictures. Like the one picture that I took was only because we did a brief stop at that location, but you have plenty of place to go to. I would recommend, though, if you do, to not wander too far, because the impression I got from the place is that it's pretty free roaming. Like there's not going to be like barbed wire or some other type of fence, something to keep you from getting lost. Obviously, there's trails that you can follow. Those would be the best ones to do. But otherwise, you can be on your own and walk about. And if you do so, it seems like you're going to be in a big little trouble if you start to get lost there. In any case, this guy, he was taking pictures. He was roaming about. He stated he has truck park nearby. And as he was walking around a certain area, that's when he felt like something was following him. And when he turned around, he saw that there was nothing there. Absolutely nothing in sight. He was the only person there, but he clearly felt that there was something else that was also there with him. It was almost like that sensation you get in the back of your neck, right? Where there's some kind of imminent danger, but it's slowly building up. That's what I imagine he was getting at the same time. So he decided to call it quits, and he decided to quicken his pace. And then when he did so, that's when he heard footsteps. So now he was actually not just getting that sensation that something was there, but now he physically heard footsteps, and they were coming across from his side. So he decided at that point he's getting back to his car. And when he did so, he slowly started to get more and more panicked. And when that happened, he finally broke out into a full run. It was kind of foolish on his part, because he states that at a certain point he tripped within some area there. I imagine it was a tree branch or some other type of rock that caused him to land on his face. And then that's when he looked up and turned around from where he was at before. And that's when he saw what he couldn't believe. Sure enough, the tall grass that was there in that foresty area was getting bent to the side as something big was coming towards him. In fact, it was pushing through the grass itself when clearly there was no one there. And my understanding is that this was during the daytime. This was, in other words, like around 1 p.m. or so. So this would have been unobscured, 100% daylight. He could see, in other words, everything that was in front of him. And there was this grass that was being parted as something big was coming straight towards him. Clearly, he was in full panic mode at this point. He ran as quickly as he could in his car, and as he did so, that's when something hit his car from behind. He didn't pay attention to it too much because he obviously wanted to get the hell hell out of there. And when he did so, that's when he ran out, and then that's when he heard more stories about this invisible man that lives there, some type of invisible entity within Palmetto State Park. Obviously, it found him as he was walking about taking these pictures there. Maybe it wanted to make its presence known, and then that was it. So what do you guys think as far as this invisible man of Palmetto State Park? What is it? Is it an entity? Is it some kind of ghost or spirit? Is it an alien, a cloaked one, in other words, from a nearby UFO? Who knows? I was going to mention that it could be a Genius Loki, one of my favorite cryptids of all. The problem, though, is the Genius Loki is completely, absolutely invisible. Not just invisible, but intangible. There are no effects of it nearby. You can't sense it, you can't see it, it doesn't cause grass to trample on the ground, nothing like that. So it couldn't be something like this, but who knows what it is. But here's hoping that sometime in the future I'll get to go to Palmetto State Park, be able to stay overnight. And if I do, maybe I'll be able to post some live streams and showcase my own proof if I come across this type of invisible man or entity there at the park. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.